Peace and welcome to the show. It's our first show, and we're kicking off Black History Month right here on Black Star Network. For today's big conversation, I'm asking the question, is America headed for a civil war? There are a lot of discussions about what's going to be the state of democracy. Plus, we'll talk about student life and student debt during uncertain times. Then later, we introduce to you our brand new segment, Trends, Posts, and Doing the Most. Oh boy, we got a lot to talk about there. So stay riding with us. That's all coming up on The Culture right here on Black Star Network. Let's go. Peace and welcome to the first show of The Culture here on Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We truly appreciate it. Folks, let me just say, first and foremost, I want to give a very, very big shout out to the founder and to the curator of Black Star Network, my big brother, Brother Roland S. Martin. Thank you so much, Brother Roland, for giving us an opportunity to talk about the things that we need to talk about in this way and creating this platform. Absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much, Brother Roland, for that. But tonight, folks, I want to talk to you a little bit about what this show is really all about, because when you're talking about the culture, it is a lot to really take in. And so for those who aren't familiar with me, just to let you know, I've been doing a radio show. I've been a TV voice for the past 20 years. Now, I know, I'm a fresh 25, but I've been doing this work for the past 20 years. And as a result of that, I have come to really love social science. I've come to really love philosophy and psychology. And as a fan of those great sciences, I found that, I love studying people. Like how we behave, how we act, how we think, how we engage with one another. I mean, those are super, super important, especially as we're talking about the culture. This is an absolutely fascinating time for us right now. And as a result of it being a fascinating time, we want to make sure that we just look at how things are, because things are changing so dramatically and rapidly that we should take the time right now to just sit back, pause, and reflect on how we are moving forward with living this life and coexisting with one another. And so it is something special that we can come together in this fashion and to have these types of conversations. And more importantly, to discuss things in a way that we never thought we should, because things have changed rapidly. And so that's where this show is coming in, the culture. This show is helping to serve and create a platform. If you were to ask anybody what the culture means or how would they define culture, they would probably give you a million different answers. But let me share with you how we define culture here on the Black Star Network, and then particularly with this show. We define culture as being something or a way of life, the way that we do things. We also look at it from how something is done and the way we govern, the way we educate, how we interact and engage with one another. These are all cultural experiences. Now, we may not think about, the culture in the sense of, all of these things, but the culture really impacts us on both a subconscious and a conscious level. And we should know that. We should really know that. We think a certain way because of how we grew up. We believe a certain way because of the faith that we have accepted. Or We live in a certain neighborhood because of we've been kind of told the story and the narrative of this place and that place. We act a certain way because we have followed various social cues that told us that some behavior is acceptable while other behavior is not acceptable. And so we want to dig in this whole dynamic a little deeper because the culture determines so much about who we are and how we live. It determines our relationships with each other. It determines our relationships with institutions. It even determines our relationship with the various systems that we are a part of. Our culture serves as a compass when we are lost, and it serves as and it comforts us during uncertain times. That's how powerful culture really is, folks. So why should we not check in to analyze, to reflect, to pause how we are doing? Why shouldn't? When if understood and possibly change, our culture can serve as the key to becoming who we want to be. And this is a huge part of the conversation. If you really want to make a difference, if you really want to make a change in the world, then you have to change the culture of how people see themselves in the world. See, let me just break it down to you. So having a show like this about something that is, this big, yet this intangible is a major, major undertaking for me and my team here. We know it is. So that's why we have decided that I won't be the only person that you will hear regularly on this show, because there are many voices. It's not the culture of Farajii, it's our culture. So you'll hear various voices on this show that, guess what? We may not agree, but those voices are going to be a part of what we call our culture crew. Now, the culture crew is a group of people who I know personally. I'm bringing my personal friends and my family, like my wife, to come on to this show to discuss topics in a way that you probably never heard or never considered. I'm bringing these folks together because I'm saying to myself, wow, this is a new idea. So let me try something. Let's let other people see it. And if we see things differently, so what? That's okay. I often have heard and said that Black people in particular, we aren't a monolithic group. We aren't a monolithic people. We don't all think the same way. We certainly don't all believe the same way. We don't vote the same way. We don't do the same things that we used to do back in the day. And I mean, we're just a different people in 2022. Well, the question becomes, what happened? Well, the culture has changed. And we can't be afraid or in a state of denial about what has changed. Now, some of us, we want to fight it. As a matter of fact, instead of fighting it, we should be more strategic and figure out how to either embrace it or change it to suit our personal and collective interests. But things are changing, folks, and we need to talk about it. Each generation brings about change. Each generation yearns for progress in how we think and do things. And the thing about it is, you got to ask yourself the question, are we ready to take ownership of this space that we are in? Because guess what? Many people try to say that the culture is something outside of themselves, like it's some monster living in the hillsides or in the urban cities and towns that we're in. No. The culture is much closer to home than that. The culture isn't outside of us. The culture is us. So if we want to see our culture change, then we must change ourselves first. I don't know about you, but I'm personally tired of the hatred, the vitriol, and having conversations that are just rooted in lies. And I mean, I'm just so over it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the partisan politics. I'm tired of the labels. And I want to have conversations that speaks to our similarities, a conversation that helps us to create a tangible reality, all while rooted in immutable truths. That's the type of conversation I want to have. And this is the type of conversation where we can be free to be ourselves. Because right now, and I feel like we are all in a sort of prison, because we gotta watch and walk, not to be insensitive, but not to be politically incorrect, but we are in a prison of our own thinking. And at this point, I want to give us an opportunity to share with intelligence, to share in a space with balanced dialogue, because even if you and I disagree, give me a great argument to share instead of, yelling and cussing and no, give me something to consider. Because at the end of the day, folks, let me tell you what my job here as the host of this show, my job is very simple. I'm here to moderate these discussions in a big way, right? Sure, I'm going to have my thoughts. I'm going to have my insight. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that these conversations are moderated and are happening in a way that we all can appreciate. So I'm not here to insult your intelligence. I'm just here to raise it. I'm not here to uproot your beliefs, just make you think deeper about them. And more importantly, I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. Just consider some new ideas. So if we can get to that place, if we find ourselves in that space, then I truly, truly believe, folks, that we'll be in a better place, a place that's truly good for the culture, for all of us. Welcome to the culture. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's jump into our big conversation. Is America headed for civil war? I'm going to check in with our special guest, Reverend Eric Lee. We're going to check in with our culture crew, Neil Muhammad and Iman Heath, and have the discussion. So stay with us. It's the culture on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back. We're talking about the big conversation today. Is America headed for a civil war? This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I feel like at this point in our sojourn in this country, and most importantly, in this point of our history, there is a lot of anxiety right now. I mean, even beyond COVID-19, there's a lot of anxiety right now about the state of our democracy, the state of the country. And I think, to kick off this show, even though it's Black History Month, we have to have a conversation about where this country is going, and especially when it comes to Black people in this country. So I'm very excited that we have a chance to have this critical conversation and making sure that we can kind of relieve some anxieties, and most importantly, show where do the Black community stand in this whole situation? Where do we go? How do we move forward if America is headed towards a civil war? I want to share with you very quickly just some statistics, because I mean, this conversation is big, folks. But I want to share with this with you so that you can get a better understanding of the context. So according to the New York Times, in January of last year, shortly after the storming of the Capitol, there was a poll done by a gentleman by the name of John Zogby, who conducted this national survey that yielded a troubling finding, folks, that a plurality, meaning a number of respondents, 46%, believe that the United States is headed for another civil war. 46%. That's nearly half of the respondents. Now, how did we get here? Let me just share this with you. The political culture and the landscape of our politics is just so divisive at this point. It's embarrassing. We can't get nothing passed. Nobody can do their damn job. It's absolutely embarrassing. But along with the outside of the political divisiveness, that's a major contributor. We don't actually talk about the toll that level of political divisiveness actually has on us as the constituents, as the American citizens. So let me share with you this. According to a 2020 poll from the right-leaning American Enterprise Institute, 64% of Democrats see Republican policies as so misguided that they pose a serious threat to the country. 64%. That's high. Now, let's go forward. Among Republicans, get this, 75% believe that Democratic Party policies are so misguided that they pose a serious threat to the country. 64 and 75%. That's how dissatisfied Republicans and Democrats are with one another. So given these stats, I'm looking at this question and I'm saying, should we be concerned about the prospect of another civil war seriously, or are we just being alarmed unintentionally? Now, according to Barbara Walter, who is a political science professor at the University of California in San Diego, she studies civil war. She actually wrote a book about how civil wars start, said, quote, "No one wants to believe that their beloved democracy is in decline or headed towards civil war. But if you are an analyst in a foreign country looking at events in America, you will go down a checklist assessing each of the conditions that make civil war likely." Check this out. And she said, and what you would find is that the United States, a democracy founded more than two centuries ago, has entered very dangerous territory. Very dangerous territory. I want to turn to my very special guest, Reverend Eric Lee. I want to bring him into this conversation because as much as we're talking about the dangerous territory, as much as we're talking about this, we have to see, like, where do Black people stand on this situation? So I want to bring my brother in. Reverend Eric, big brother Eric, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well, brother Farajii. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. In a few moments, then we're also going to be checking in with our culture crew, Iman Heath and Nira Muhammad, to get their take on this. But brother Eric, I mean, this is just a small number of stats. Let me just, before we even get into that, I want to share with the audience the work that you've done, because they probably say, well, who is this guy? Why are you having him on the show? Let me just share with you very quickly, folks, who Brother Eric is, because he is a person that I know. He's a friend, but he has been doing work. He was out there in Los Angeles, relocated to Baltimore in 2013. But while he was LA, I want to just share with you why it's important for us to have a conversation. He is really like a son of the civil rights movement. He was a founding member and president of the Black Community Clergy and Labor Alliance, which is an independent and social activist organization that's dedicated to representing, promoting, and protecting economic interests and well-being of Black communities and Black workers. He was the past president of and CEO of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Los Angeles. And SCLC, you know, their great fight against oppressive forces that hinder people from freedom, justice, and equality. He is a founding member of the Stand for Security Coalition. They organize African-American security officers into a union. He's a part of the Diversity Task Force member, reintegrating African-Americans into the hotel industry. He's a founding member for the Alliance for Equal Opportunity in Education at UC, a collaboration that forced UCLA to create a more inclusive admissions policy. And Brother Eric, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. He's a founding member of the Coalition for Black Student Equity, which is purposed to improve the quality of education for Black students. And so he's been doing this work for over 30 years. I'm not trying to show your age, brother, because you look good. You look good, dear brother. But you have been doing the work. And one of the great things that I appreciate about it is that you are an activist. You are a community organizer. You're not a talking head. You are a person that has been doing the work in various communities, hitting the streets hard. So when we have a conversation of this magnitude talking about, is America headed for civil war, should we be concerned at this point?
Well, I think the greater let me answer your question. Is America headed to a civil war? Not in the traditional sense of a military engagement, because a civil war would require, from the typical sense, the engagement of a governmental controlled military. Now, if the former president were to be president again, he had often tried to engage the military to do his bidding and his work.
Yeah.
And so I think that the possibility of an actual civil war taking place is greater with someone like the past president in office,
yeah,
than what we have now. Right now, I do believe we're in a very deep cultural war. And it's not just the left against the right, the conservatives against the liberals. It's not, and there's also a race war going on, which has also been inspired by the past president.
Right.
But I think we can also track that back to when President Obama first was elected in 2008, of which I was a delegate at the 2008 convention. But you saw at that point where the vitriol communication regarding racism and race privilege and race oppression and discrimination was accelerated exponentially when
Absolutely.
Barack Obama became president.
Yeah.
And so that cultural war, to me, has always been there. It was at a simmer before Barack Obama, during the I would say the affirmative action years or the civil rights era, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think the cultural divide was always there, but it was kept under wraps because of the movement of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And after the election of Barack Obama, and then you had our past president, or the past president in office, we saw that it came to a crescendo, and it ended up with the January 6th insurrection, which to me was a military style activity. It was a military strategy. It was a military engagement to try and overturn our election. So, so was it is it the possibility of a civil war taking place? Unless the government-controlled military is engaged in a contest about principles and culture, then I don't see that as happening in the typical sense of warfare. But there is a cultural battle taking place, and it's not only between the left and the right, because there's a cultural battle taking place in the left on the Democratic side.
Right. The big tent party.
Right, and there's a cultural battle taking place on the right.
Right.
And so you have these sub themes taking place in terms of cultural wars and differences and diversities that we can't seem to wrap our arms around. And it's, a free for all right now in terms of promoting what you believe this country should look like. And it doesn't seem like we're able to rein that in, to have some sense of civility in how we dialogue with one another.
Eric, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that that's exactly where we are. I want to bring in members of the culture crew. And again, folks, these are family members and friends and just part of people that I have these conversations with. I mean, I know some of you probably think to yourself, like, you talk about this, I talk about this, we talk about this all the time. It's a very, very real situation. First and foremost, I want to bring in a woman who I have a deep, deep respect for. She is a writer. She is an educator. She is the host of Queen Talks podcast that can be heard. And she's also my wife, the mother of my two children. Let's bring in Nira Muhammad. Nira, thank you so much for checking in.
Thank you for having me, as always, Farajii.
Absolutely. And then we also are joined by another dynamic activist who was a very, very important part of the great 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, the Justice or Else Coalition and Organizing Committee. We got Miss Iman Heath. Iman, thank you so much for checking in. Iman, can you hear me? Are you on mute?
There you go. Thank you all for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So, Nira, when you think about this conversation of being in the place and listening to what Brother Eric had to say about the cultural space that they're in, what comes to your mind?
To be honest, I agree with what Eric said entirely. I don't necessarily see us coming to like pitchforks and like guns and like having a serious like civil war in the way that we, saw back in the day. But I do think that the culture shift is very much so happening. I think that the American people, our constituents, we are not happy. We're not happy with our government. I don't think our government is happy with themselves, which we can clearly see. I remember you showing me an article about all these new parties, like possible parties that could come along. And as I was sitting here listening to Eric, I was thinking like, I don't want to be a Democrat or Republican. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be a liberal either. I want a new party. I do personally think that our country, our government needs to be dismantled, because who is it serving? Who is it protecting? And I do think that our civil liberties are slowly but surely just like dissipating. And I think that it's happening so like at such a small, slow pace that people aren't noticing. People aren't paying attention. So I do think that we are going to be going to some sort of civil war again. It may not look like what it did to free slaves or to stay as a union, but I definitely see that shift coming. We didn't think January 6th was going to happen though. So no bets are off.
Right. I feel you on that. Iman, what's your take on this? Because I think Neri is absolutely correct. We didn't see the way that this country has declined the way that it did from Barack Obama, everybody. I mean, like Eric said, people are still like, it was like an undertone, but then you get from Barack to Trump, and it just seems like all hell broke loose, all bets were off. Democracy, what is that? What's your take on that?
It's definitely the Civil War. If we were to go into the Civil War, which I believe we are going to culturally, as you said, I don't think it's going to be guns and pitchforks and fires ablaze, and hopefully not. We've seen it get there before, but hopefully not. I think that this generation, the younger generation, of course, we're not tolerating certain things moving forward. As Nera said, I don't want to be a part of any political party. What we need is something new, brand new, not the same. Let me appeal to your better nature, or let me appeal to you as if I'll stand for you, stand behind you, and it's not that way. Matters such as Black Lives Matter has made a cultural divide. With the
it wasn't their fault though. I know people often say Black Lives Matter shouldn't have been out there the way they were out there, but somebody had to literally come up with a phrase, and they didn't just come up with it to just assert the fact that guess what, the lives of Black people do count.
It needed to be said.
Went down.
It needed to be said.
I don't see much. Go ahead, I don't see much difference. I don't see much difference between the Black Panther Party and Black Lives Matter. I mean, as I was growing up in Oakland, it was about feeding our children, about protecting our civil liberties and our civil rights, and we were operating within the law, which we had the right to carry guns, and I'm sure we're going to talk about guns later on in this program. But I don't see much difference in terms of cultural preservation. I see myself as a cultural preservationist, and when there are things that are elements that are attacking our right to exist and our right to excel, then we have to push back in every means possible, in every manner possible. And so I don't see much difference than what we were doing back in the 60s and 70s with the Black Power movement.
But I gotta say, Eric, I can take it back even further than that. I was studying some Gordon Parks photos, and I was stuck on those photos about, I believe they were called the Midtowners in Harlem. It was a gang. And even looking at, and this was in 1948, and looking at the gangs, even back then, they were not created to create chaos. They were protective measures. So even looking back, we've always operated out of a place of protection. Right. Now, have we went off that beating path over the years? Sometimes we have, but I do think, like Eric said, these movements were built out of protecting and preserving the Black community.
It's just a problem. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The problem is, the criminalization of everything that Black folks do.
Yep.
So when mainstream society, those who are in positions of privilege and power, want to characterize us as being radical and revolutionary, it's only because they're deflecting from the bigger problem, which is a denial of our equal rights, with denial of justice, and the oppression and discrimination that they've constantly operated in. And so it's to Nera's point, we are protecting our culture and we are protecting ourselves as a people, but we are then criminalized for standing up for our rights.
Let me throw something else out there into it, and then Iman, I want to get your take on this, because there was a piece an opinion piece that Mr. Frank Brunei, who wrote for the New York Times, he wrote a piece called "Our Tribalism Will Be the Death of Us." And in this piece, Mr. Brunei said, the pandemic, which could and should have brought us together, has instead driven us further apart, exacerbating our tribalism, which is an enemy of real progress, but a friend to all sorts of dysfunction, all manner of meanness. The irrational obstructionism in Congress and lawmakers' taste for vitriol and vengeance are tribalism run amok. Cancel culture, be it the left or right, is a tribal impulse, not merely abetted, but amplified by the technology of our time. And one of the big things that I'm getting from Mr. Brunei's piece is the fact that we are creating our own demise. We are creating our own demise. He further says, we humans are inherently tribal creatures. I get that. I've read and remember enough history and headlines not to be surprised. But the work of civilization, the advance of it, involves containing that tribalism, controlling it, moderating it with grander and more unifying ideals. Why aren't we seeing certain measures, Iman, being put in place that controls this tribalism? How did that happen? Where we're now starting to see not just a Democratic Party, we see three parties within a Democratic Party, three parties within a Republican Party. Then you got all of these divisions among those who are not affiliated. How come we can't get it together with unifying ideals as Mr. Brunei has recommended here?
I would say one main problem would be acceptance. There's a lot of denial of things as far as racism still exists, which is something that some people seem to not get past. Let's say back in January of last year, when everyone stormed the Capitol, white supremacists stormed the Capitol. If those were Black people, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't have been the same outcome, in my opinion.
Right.
But you have others who want to say, "Oh no, that wouldn't have happened." Someone was hurt, but they had their rights. Their rights were being infringed on. No, you pick and choose when to use that line to say that, "Oh, our rights are being infringed on." I don't think that we will be able to reverse our behavior when it comes to tribalism. I think it's only going to extend.
Let me ask you this, Iman. Let me ask you: Do you think that, given where America is going, that it's in Black people's best interest to start thinking more tribally?
I would say it can, but I want to say the point to the vaccines. That's going to be what really divides us all. You have people pointing the finger at others for not getting their vaccine, and you're a part of the problem, or never get back to how the way of life was because you won't get your vaccine. Then those who aren't vaccinated, you're dumb for getting the vaccine. They're shooting a tester in you, blah 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 blah. And again, I don't agree with getting the vaccine. However, to each his own. But as humans, we're going to gravitate what's familiar to us. And it's no way to go back. In my opinion, it's only going to get further. It's only going to divide us even further.
Well, let me just say, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because we're going to have to take a quick pause. But when we come back, I want us to look at, a particular strategy, which I think, Brother Eric, that needs to be really considered and employed at this point in time in our sojourn in all of this. And that is, we're so dysfunctional and we're so disappointed with the current political parties that it might lead to us to say, you know what, enough is enough. Let's move along on our own political track. Let's try to establish something of our own. So I want us to have a conversation about that, because in a couple of months, we're going to be celebrating the 50-year anniversary of the great National Black Political Convention that took place back in March of 1972. And there is something, in that demonstration that I truly believe is something that we can use 50 years later, folks. So, Brother Eric and Nira and Iman, I want to get your take on this, because as we're talking about a civil war, it's like, should we as Black people start to really consider, hey, we might have to move in a different direction? So we'll have that conversation We're after our break, but stay with us. You're tuning into The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, we've been talking about a very big conversation, which is America headed for civil war? I've been having a conversation with Reverend Eric Lee, along with two members of my culture crew, Reverend Muhammad and Iman Heath, both giving their thoughts and insights about the state of democracy in this country, and most importantly, where we are moving forward. Now, part of this conversation, as much as we talked about the tribalism, much we talk about the political divisiveness, we also have to talk about the fact that there have been things done in the past, which I truly, truly believe can be used right now to forge and create a better future for us. What am I speaking of? Back in 1972, in March of 1972, in a small town called Gary, Indiana, which is about 40 miles outside of Chicago, and is actually the home of Michael Jackson, the birthplace of Michael Jackson, right? In a school called Westside High, 10,000 Black people came to convene in Gary, Indiana, at the behest of their Mayor Hatcher, to talk about a political future for Black people there. And now look, check this out, folks. You might be saying, well, why have you may have heard about this gathering? This was one of the largest political strategy gatherings in the history of America. And at that time, some of the most notable civil rights leaders and freedom fighters were present, from everywhere from poet Amiri Baraka to Reverend Jesse Jackson to the NAACP, the Urban League, the Nation of Islam, and many other groups. But Jesse Jackson said something in his remarks that really touched to the sentiment of so many people. He said, quote, "I don't want to be the gray shadow of a white elephant or the gray shadow of a white donkey. I am a black man and I want a black party." He asked the crowd, for black Democrats, black Republicans, black Panthers, black Muslims, black independents, black business owners, black professionals, black mothers on welfare, what time is it? And of course, in our tradition, Brother Eric, we responded, what time is it? Nation time. That's what happened. So, Brother Eric, I want to come back to you and our culture crew to get your take. I mean, they talked about forging a political path for black people in 1972. We're 50 years out. Ras Baraka, the great son of Amiri Baraka and the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, they're planning to do some local celebrations of that union, of that demonstration. But it made me wonder, Brother Eric, is it possible for us to do it again? Can we bring black folks together? And we've had major gatherings since 1972. We came to the mall. Is that the direction we need to go to in the political space? Maybe we don't need 1 million people. Maybe we just need 5,000 people. Maybe we need 500 people. But is that the direction? Because I feel like things ain't working out right now for black people.
Yeah, I'm the direction. I know that we've always had an underlying desire to do all things black, and because of the concerted efforts of racism and discrimination and oppression against us, and it seems that we have always done better when we were separated from the mainstream culture. At least it appeared that we had more black businesses, we had more academic wealth, we had more unity and pride when we were segregated, and so there's always that underlying desire to return to that sense of unity and pride. But as Neer made reference earlier to our democratic system, it's not truly a democracy. A two-party system is not a democracy. We have a choice between bad and worse, and so.
Hey, Mama, you just said bad and worse. Damn, you didn't even tell us like bad and okay.
How long has the Democratic Party leveraged the black cause for their agenda?
Right.
And we've seen no change.
Try to do the Dougie to try to get our attention, or wear
hot sauce in the bag. Hot sauce in the bag.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, we need a political revolution that would cause us to be a true democracy where you have multiple parties. And I think that if we understood what the objective was in that political party, nothing we do is going to. So let me back up. With black folks, our charge is to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
We have been the moral and ethical voice of this country since we've landed on these shores.
Yeah.
And that has been God's calling upon our lives. So whatever we do, we've always done it not only for the sake of black folks, but we've done it for the sake of anybody who has been depressed and discriminated against. Mm-hmm. We are the most inclusive people on the planet. And so if we started a political party that was a black political party, I guarantee you it would not only be black, because people who understood the moral and ethical journey that we want would join us in that quest and then on that journey.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your take, because somebody posted in our YouTube chat. They said, if we can't get people to vote now, what's the point of a new party that people still won't vote for? There are two political parties and the independent party. Half y'all won't even vote for them. And then they said this new party rhetoric only makes people not get their behind out and vote. Do you find that to be the case? Do you think that if we talk about a third party, or if we're talking about some level of black political unity, that it will become a hindrance to, it will become just another obstacle for people to get civically and politically involved?
Absolutely not. And I'm tired of people with their excuses. I voted. I go out and vote. Since the moment that I turned 18 years old, I go out and vote. Locally, nationally, I vote. I exercise that right. For Black women, for women in general who have, from the 1920s on forward, who have stood out there and marched for women to have the right to vote, I am going to vote. Now, a lot of people said they didn't vote because they didn't like either one of the candidates. Yeah. They, like Eric said, they didn't want to vote Republican. They didn't want to vote Democratic. Nobody votes independent because it feels like it's a waste of a vote. Let's just put that out there. You feel like you're wasting your vote when you vote independently. But if we come out with a real party that we can really gravitate to, we can start taking those Republicans, we can start taking those Democrats, we can start taking those non-voters, because they'll finally have a buy-in. They'll finally have a party that they can feel like they're a part of. So many people I know that are my age, and I'll put myself out there. I'm 32. I know a lot of people my age who do not want to vote because they just were like, I don't want to vote for Biden or what's his name? Trump. You know, personally, I personally didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton or Trump. I did vote, but I was not a fan of Hillary Clinton. I was not a fan of Trump, but I still exercise my right to vote. You got to vote. Cut the crap, cut the excuses. We got to do something. We got to make a change.
So I'll be the one. Be the one to be on the opposite end. I didn't vote. I was one of those non-voters felt as though neither party represented me at all. And again, as Farajii knows and Nira knows, I'm all for my people. I'm all for our progression. If we had an actual party to support, oh yeah, I'd go vote. But I didn't feel as though I had anybody to vote for. I was told, vote for Biden and Kamala because support a Black woman becoming the first Black female vice president. Kudos, yes. However, take off the mask or the face that's shown to us. What can you do for me? How can you help my people? Now that they've been in office for going on over a year, what progression have we seen for my people or my culture that you said and claimed it to be? Biden, for example, said he's all for canceling student loan debt. What's going on with that? What happened with that?
We're going to talk about that.
We sit on pens that he was waiting for. I'm sitting on pens and he was waiting for it. Please clear my debt, please, Lord Biden.
Me too. Me too.
But here's the thing about the Black political party. I think we're going to take another pause. But the thing is that I think Brother Eric, Nira, and Iman, there's something in that demonstration, right? Like one of the big things that came out of that demonstration was that there was more political engagement from Black people. And Brother Eric, you know this. There was more Black people ran for office. Jesse Jackson ran for president. All of those things happened as a result of that union. I feel like there needs to be another union, not in a mass level, but just in enough to say enough is enough to both parties. And they were trying to do that 50 years ago. My hope is that maybe we can pick up the torch to do that now. Brother Eric, you got the final word on this. Then we're going to take a quick pause.
Yeah, I think, and I'll go back to understanding what the objective would be of our party. And right now, clearly, we have a tremendous impact on elections because we do vote with some unity in terms of our political philosophy. And so I think it's very important that we understand what the objective of our political party would be. How do we impact elections? How do we affect policy? How do we put in office those who would represent the interests of our people so that we can continue to excel and exceed what any other folks think that we can or cannot do, which we have always done. We've always exceeded whatever their expectations were. And so
run for office. I'll vote for you. I'll vote for you.
Oh, man. All right, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's switch gears. We're going to check in with the president and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, Dr. Harry Williams, who's going to give us some insight about that larger conversation around student loan debt and also about student life. And we'll also get some words from Dr. Williams in light of the latest threats to HBCUs across the country. We still got a lot to talk about, folks. So in the next hour, so stay tuned. A whole lot is coming at you on The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome to the show, folks. We want to have a conversation with Dr. Harry Williams, who serves as the president and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, to talk to us about student life, student debt, and the opportunities for scholarship, even in the midst of unprecedented threats against HBCUs. And so we're happy that Dr. Williams is going to share with us his thoughts, and most importantly about that situation, but also about this partnership between the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and Novartis. So let's welcome to the program, Dr. Harry Williams. Dr. Williams, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today. I'm excited about being on your program.
Absolutely, absolutely. And folks, we are still joined by our wonderful culture crew. Reverend Eric Lee is still holding on to us. We'll be a part of the conversation along with Nira Muhammad and Iman Heath. But Dr. Williams, let's start with you, sir. And, getting your thoughts about first, a lot of people are asking about this latest situation where there have been a number of HBCUs that have been under threat, bomb threats. What have you been hearing? And most importantly, what are your thoughts about this situation? It seems to be a coordinated threat on HBCUs. We don't have a lot of we have a little bit less, about 100 HBCUs, but there seems to be some real anger and hatred against Black institutions, educational institutions.
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me on your program.
Absolutely.
And you're right. This is very, very disturbing. We've been in constant contact with the authorities trying to figure out what's going on. I currently have a son at Howard University, and Howard actually received one of the bomb threats, and I checked in with him, and they have been cleared to go back to class, but the students are afraid, to be honest with you. And so they are still doing remote learning. This is very, very concerning. And for the beginning of Black History Month too. And so we have been talking with the Department of education, homeland security, and there are a lot of people looking at this right now. Just fortunately, we haven't had anything to happen, but it's very, very disturbing.
So, I mean, when we're looking at this, I mean, we've always, and you've been doing this work for some time, but you know that there's always been an quote unquote an attack against Black education, right, in educational institutions. But we're seeing the attack ratchet, just going up even every single year. I mean, whether you're talking about an outward attack such as a bomb threat, or you're talking about a budgetary attack with HBCUs, I'm wondering, what needs to be done to protect our educational institutions beyond just going to the homecoming rallies and to the football games and to the pep rallies and all of those things. Like, what seriously needs to be done, Dr. Williams?
Well, HBCUs have been serving our community for over 150 years, and we were created because, quite frankly, they didn't want us to go to the white institutions, and so we created our own. And we created our own, and we've excelled at a very high level, and we have been under attack for over 150 years. There's an article out today from Forbes magazine saying that the 1918-90 land grant institutions were founded primarily to serve former Black slaves and create your own wealth there. They have been underfunded by $12.8 billion. They went back and ran the numbers. $12.8 billion.
That's a lot of money left on the table, sir.
That's a lot of money that we have been underfunded. That's basically, we have been left out of the funding equation. And so here recently, we have been receiving a lot of positive attention because of the successes of our graduates. Our namesake, Thurgood Marshall, when our founder, Dr. N. Joyce Payne, approached Justice Marshall 35 years ago and asked him if he would allow his name to be used to this organization to raise funds for the more than 300,000 HBCU students. He didn't hesitate because he was a two-time graduate of two of our institutions. He graduated at Lincoln University, one of our oldest HBCUs, and then went on to Howard Law, and the rest is history. He's he will go down in history as the greatest, one of the greatest Supreme Court justices to ever live, and what he did and what he did for African Americans and what he did for this country. But the reality is he graduated from our institutions and he excelled at a very high level. And that's what we do on our campuses. And because of the positive attention that's been given to our institutions, people just don't like that. They just don't like the fact that the reality that these institutions have been doing extremely well, have created some amazing leaders in this country, and we continue to do that daily.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. Which leads us into the conversation around, the work that the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and Novartis is doing, which is you created this partnership to provide scholarships and essentially millions of dollars that will help Black students. Talk to us a little bit about this partnership, Dr.
Yeah,
Williams.
this is an incredible partnership, and unfortunately, this originated because of the unfortunate death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. It brought a lot of attention to all of the inequities that exist within our community, and again, looking for solutions. And one of the biggest solution is, education and being able to get a strong education, and recognizing that HBCUs have been, despite all of the deliberate roadblocks that's been put in place to try to trip us up from advancing, we have excelled. And Novartis US Foundation, actually, we connected with us, and we started talking about a long-term engagement to have an impact on our community, and a significant impact. Novartis is a healthcare provider. Novartis is very clear and very intentional and said, we want to partner with 27 of our institutions from primarily in the South. We have several up in the North, but primarily in the South, to create this relationship that will provide scholarships to our students, provide grant opportunities for our faculty, and also provide opportunities for our students to get internships. This is a 10-year, $20 million investment, and it's going to be a direct focus on attacking the underrepresented population in the healthcare field, We're partnering with our 4 medical schools: Howard University, Meharry Medical School, Charles Drew Medical School, and Morehouse School of Medicine. We produce more Black doctors than any other medical schools in the country. And by partnering with us, it's going to allow these doctors to graduate with a little less debt. And that's the bottom line. And the students who are attending the undergraduate institutions and majoring in healthcare related fields and majoring in those areas that we are underrepresented in, they will be eligible to get up to $30,000 to support their education. And that is a big deal. $30,000. You can use that to help.
I can use that now, Doc. I can use that right now, sir.
Yes,
no, that's amazing. $30,000 at an HBCU, and for those who may not know, Dr. Williams, the average cost for HBCUs, what is that price?
Well, it's not actually we represent the public HBCU, so that's a different. The private costs a little bit more, but the public, the average is about $25,000 for a public HBCU. If you go to a private, it's going to increase a little bit over $45,000. And so you can do the math. If you can get $30,000 to go to a public HBCU, that's a full ride, basically.
No, that's a big ride as well. And that's one of the big things that I think that why we should know about these opportunities, which is why I'm happy that you were able to join with us on this first day of our show, and of course the first day of Black History Month, because a lot of times, and I live in Baltimore, and a lot of folks, when I talk to high school students, when I talk to even some college students, they don't know about these opportunities. They don't know that there are resources. I mean, here in the city of Baltimore, for example, you can go to community college, Baltimore City Community College, for free, under certain conditions, if you graduated high school and all of those things here in the city. So people don't know about these resources. And I often, when we have these conversations about money that's on the table, $30,000, our curator and founder, Brother Roland Martin, has said he's established a scholarship fund for $50,000 to help students. How do we make sure that information is getting out to the masses and to those who really need it and deserve it?
I really appreciate you asking that question because you're right. I want your audience to go to our website, tmcf.org, tmcf.org, and click on scholarships. We have this particular scholarship is open right now, is live for the students and students who are in your region. Bowie State University, Howard University would be able to participate in this particular program. But we have more than 50 different scholarship programs. So students who are attending Coppin State can also apply. They can go and look at our scholarships that we offer there. And this will give them a chance. Now, the biggest reason why our students don't get the scholarships is because they don't apply. So we need to get them to apply, and they need to apply now. And that application is live until February the 28th. The Novartis application, only thing you have to have is a 3.0 grade point average, majoring in social work or health related fields or business or technology. For those students who are listening, go and look at this, our scholarship website. We have last year we awarded over $6 million in scholarships. This year, we're going to award close to $12 million. Now, this is free money. Let me underscore this. Free money. This is not a loan. This is based on your academic performance in college. And these dollars are set aside for our students. So if you go and look, you can see a list of all the schools that we represent at the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. We have 47 public HBCUs that we represent, and all the students who are attending those particular institutions would be eligible to apply for our scholarships. And I would encourage your audience to do that.
Dr. Williams, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, I want you to continue the conversation with myself and my culture crew because, as we're talking about money, and I know you've been having these money conversations, sir. People are wondering what the heck is going on with student debt. So to hear from a person who's who's dealing with money day in and day out, we want to have a conversation around student debt. So we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, more with Dr. Harry Williams of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, more with our culture crew, and of course, you. So stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, we've been having a conversation with Dr. Harry Williams, who serves as the president and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, talking about student life. We're going to get into this part about student debt, but just giving some insight about scholarship opportunities that students can take advantage of right now to make sure that they are more financially prepared to go into that next phase, next chapter of their lives, which is going into college. Now, we want to bring back on Dr. Harry Williams because Dr. Williams has been giving us some insight, but I also want to be joined by my culture crew. We still have our very, very big brother, Reverend Eric Lee. We also joined by Neera Muhammad, activist, writer, host of Queen Talks podcast. And we also are joined by Iman Heath, who is an activist here in Baltimore and around the country. So again, we thank you all for being a part of this conversation. But I know that, Iman, you had some real concerns. You and Neera, actually everybody did. Y'all all talked about some student debt for our special guest, Dr. Williams. Neera, I want to go with you first there. What's your question?
Oh, what is my question? Well, one of the things that he mentioned, he said that they were creating these funds for students who wanted to get into the medical field because that there Black people are underrepresented in those fields. And it made me think about my field. I was an elementary school teacher, and I truly feel like Black teachers are underrepresented. So do you guys have scholarships that cater to getting more Black students invested or interested in becoming teachers?
Yes, and you're right. And let me also, before I answer that question, when brother said he was in Baltimore, I cannot forget Morgan, the president of Morgan State, gonna kill me.
Oh yeah, he going Dr. Wilson.
Listen, I'm a graduate from Morgan. I'm a graduate from Morgan State University. I am a Morgan Bear. So yeah, represent.
My son lives in Baltimore, and my daughter-in-law works at Morgan State. So they
hold on.
And I'm in the PhD program at Morgan. So look,
I work for like the WEAA.
So
all this bear energy.
I saw the chat.
But go ahead, Dr. Williams. You were saying.
So yes, to be very candid with you, we are very underrepresented in education now. I mean, at the time, when we first started, education used to be that key entry point for professionals for us, and to get into education, to become a teacher. And what we have seen, I was president at Delaware State for 8 years, and prior to that, I worked at North Carolina A&T State, and those two institutions, they were the lead when it came to producing educators to go into the classrooms, but not anymore. Those numbers have declined significantly, and there's been a push and to try to get more of our educators back in the class, Black educators back in the classroom, because there is a lot of research out there to support that when you have people in the classroom, especially early on, who looks like you, they play a critical role in your development, your educational development. So it's important to have Black role models there. We have a program here at TMCF. It's called TQRP. It's Teacher Quality Retention Program. It's a program that's designed specifically for Black educators attending our Black schools or in our Black education program. It's a professional development program to encourage them to stay in the classroom. We're also working with some of our corporate partners to find scholarships. To your question around scholarships, the emphasis right now that I'm sure you know this, is STEM, trying to get more of our students to go into the STEM disciplines: science, technology, education, and math, because we're highly underrepresented in those areas. And those are key critical areas for the country. And we know that we have talented students that could be in that space. So there's a lot of money in that space. But education is another key area. So your point is well taken.
Absolutely.
I wish that I would have known, because look, I could have been still in the classroom. I should have been in that program. So I left the classroom last year. I taught here in Baltimore City. It's really hard. It's hard being one of the few Black teachers, and it's also hard just looking. One of the things for me, I felt like I was failing Black children. I felt like I was a part of a system, rather, that was failing Black children. That was partly why I left the system. So I would love to see more Black teachers. I know my students really gravitated toward me. I don't think it's just because I'm Black, but I related to them in a different way than their other teachers could. And so
absolutely,
that's why I would love to see more Black teachers in the classroom. Like, I could tell you so many stories, but I'll stop.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of research out there to support having Black people in the classroom so the students can have someone that they can identify with. And that is so important for your educational development, especially in those early years. And it helps to build your confidence. And it's just the power that we have in reinforcing each other and reinforcing the excellence. Because if you don't get that, it can really hamper your development and your growth. And that's why we feel very strongly about creating these programs. We have another program that's with TQRP that's focused on Black males, because we really are underrepresented in Black males in the classroom from that perspective. Because of that factor, it encouraged the Black males to graduate, to stay in school. And there are a lot of challenges in some of our urban schools in terms of Black males staying in the classroom. Yeah.
Absolutely. Iman, what's your question or your thoughts for Dr. Harry Williams?
Just a quick question. What is the biggest obstacle or hurdle that you see students go through with the application process? Is there any secret or some type of, I don't know, backdoor something that they need to know as far as the obstacle they may come across? Or what's the most common issue or problem that you know the students have when trying to apply for the program scholarship?
This is going to sound very, very simple. The biggest obstacle is to get them to apply. The students, we wait until the very last minute to apply, and then your computer is not working, and then you don't hit the deadline on time. And then
that's that CP time. We got to get that together.
So it's getting. So we're encouraging students to don't wait until the last minute to apply. Get those students who don't get a scholarship is because they don't apply. If you have the appropriate GPA that the program is asking for, you can get your application in a timely manner, and we are very, very clear on that. And we evaluate based on the criteria. For an example, the Novartis is very clear: 3.0 grade point average, and in those disciplines would automatically qualify you for that particular award, to be eligible to be considered for that award from that standpoint. So, the biggest thing is to get students to apply and to go through the process, because sometimes we just wait until the last minute because we said we're not going to get it.
That's my goodness, Doc. I'm telling you, waiting to the last minute. And I'm gonna go to Eric in a moment, but can you speak to parents, because a student may want to go. I've come across a number of students that say, man, my parents got to fill out this financial form, financial aid form. They got to fill out all of these different forms, and they are just sliding their feet. They're just not moving at the pace to meet these deadlines. What would you say to parents and grandmas and aunties and uncles out there?
Parents sometimes can prohibit their student from getting scholarships because they don't fill out the federal financial aid application. They have made it it used to be a difficult and complicated process, but it's not. It doesn't take no more than 15 minutes to complete that. What we've had a problem with was people who put different information on it. So the students get selected for what they call verification. And then when they get selected for verification, then you got to get your income tax. And that creates a problem from students to be able to get their parents to give them their W-2s, because sometimes parents don't want you to know how much they're making. And so therefore, that creates challenges for the students. So we were able to work with Congress to get that piece of verification removed from the process. So now students are not being selected for verification because that was prohibiting students from advancing. The reality, 90% of our HBCU students need financial aid. Over 90% need financial aid. And over 80% qualify for the federal support program. It's called a Pell Grant. That's an entitlement program that's based on financial need. And so 80% of our students have serious financial need, and they need these dollars. And what we want to do at the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, we want students to get free money. We don't want them to have to take out loans. The question around debt, it is really, really bad. And what it's doing is prohibiting our students from, when they graduate and starting out life without having debt, because that's prohibiting you from getting your house, getting, investing in building wealth for your family, and moving you out of this current situation in terms of elevating you to another social status financially. And that's what we're seeing with students graduating. The debt load right now is anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000. When you can imagine graduating and you get a job, and your first job might not pay you no more than $50,000, and then you got all these other things that you need, and then you got to pay a loan. We don't want students to have to be able to pay a loan because it's gonna slow them down from advancing and buying that first house. And that's what we want you to do.
Brother Eric, we got a couple of seconds left, but I want to make sure you get your question in there, brother.
Yeah, well, let me just first thank you, Dr. Williams, for your commitment and your work to providing finances to our children who are looking to go through the educational system. I firmly believe that every Black child needs to spend at least 2 years at an HBCU. I don't care if it's on the front end or the back end, but they need to be at an HBCU. Now, that said, research also shows that the biggest challenge for students matriculating and completing their higher education is finances. And so is there a strategy for reaching high school students and letting them know that these funds are available in order for them to complete their higher education?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you're spot on. I mean, that's the number one reason why students don't persist towards graduation, because our students in particular, because they don't have the funds to continue, and it creates a major barrier for that. And so what we have done here at TMCF, we work with our high school partners, we work with our principals, we work with our social groups such as fraternities and sororities, and trying to get the word out, because they do a great job of staying connected to the community, because we want the students to get a fair start in life. And part of that process is so that they don't have any debt. And the more we can communicate that to our young people and to our parents, the better, especially this time. And again, I cannot underscore the sooner you get it in, the better, and it's going to help you. And to your point around encouraging students to go to HBCUs, I cannot emphasize that enough, because the reality that HBCUs have been doing the work of providing our students a place where they don't have to worry about not being themselves. They can be themselves on a HBCU campus. You can be authentic. You can do what you need. You don't have to prove anything other than, hey, you're there. Both of my kids went to HBCUs, and they never thought about going to any other type of institution, and they have gotten outstanding education because of that, because they walk around a place that was built for them in mind. And that makes a major difference when you're looking at those buildings and you see those names, and those names reflect people who look like you, and they have excelled in whatever profession that they have there. So your point about going to an HBCU, it will do wonders in terms of the psyche for our African Americans.
Well, it just grounds us in our culture. Yeah. And I'm hitting on the back end because I went to predominantly white institutions for undergrad and grad, and you're nothing but a number there, and you're nothing but a dollar sign to it. Absolutely. At HBCU, you matter.
Yep.
Absolutely. Dr. Williams, we only got about 30 seconds left, but I want to get your take in this 30 seconds, sir. What do we need to do to push the big guy in the White House to move further along on this cancel student debt legislation? What needs to be done?
We need to remind him. Because
he does forget.
That Congressman Clyburn in South Carolina made the endorsement that took him over. As long as we keep that in front, if it wasn't for the blacks in South Carolina, I don't think he would be in the White House right now.
So we got to put a birdie in Congressman Clyburn's ear to say, Congressman, make another recommendation to this man.
Well, I tell you, he's a champion. He is a champion for HBCU. I mean, he is unapologetic when it comes to HBCUs and come to black students because of his focus. And Stacey Abrams in Georgia, they made a major difference in this past election in terms of what HBCUs did for this administration.
Absolutely. Dr. Harry Williams, President and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Dr. Williams, we truly appreciate your insight, but most importantly, we appreciate the fact that you are offering these scholarship opportunities for incoming HBCU, hopefully HBCU students. Once again, Doc, what's the best way that people can get more information about the work of Thurgood Marshall College Fund?
First, let me say thank you and also say thank you for allowing me to be on the program and recognizing that Thurgood Marshall was born and raised in Baltimore. And we are so proud of our organization and what we're doing to support his legacy and to carry his legacy on. So I would encourage your audience to go to our website, tmcf.org, and look at all the opportunities, not only scholarships, but internship opportunities in some of the top Fortune 200 companies in America that our students are interning in and creating those door openers for our students. So again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. We truly appreciate it. And Dr. Williams, we want to extend the invitation for you to come back when other new developments with your college fund happens. We would love to have you back on the show, dear brother.
Anytime. The only thing you got to do is invite me. I'll be there.
Okay. Yes, sir. Will do. Will do.
All right,
folks, I want to jump back to my culture crew, Reverend Eric Lee, Nira Muhammad, Iman Heath. First and foremost, I know that we didn't talk too much about this issue of student debt, but there seems to be, and I like what Dr. Williams had to say, like you got to keep the pressure on when it comes to this issue, because, you know, Brother Eric, the big issues that are affecting Black people in this country, we're not seeing any movement on. I could name two big pieces of legislation that we're not seeing movement. We haven't seen movement on. The George Floyd Policing Act, right? That stalled. Now we got the damn voting rights bill. That stalled. Now we're trying to talk. I mean, we it's like we can't get a break in some cases. And I'm not saying that it's all Biden-Harris' fault, and I'm not going down that road, but I'm just saying of putting the fire on this administration and on Congress to really hear us what we got to say.
Yeah, so it's going to require, as Martin Luther King eloquently stated, it's the silence of our friends that is most disturbing. And that's a paraphrase.
Yeah.
Because when we make up 13% of the population, it's gonna take the not only the goodwill, but the decision by those goodwill white folks to join us in the struggle for justice and equality, and to put pressure on their representatives to push these bills through so that there can truly be justice and equality, not only in electoral college and the voting system, but across the board in education, across the board in housing and employment. There needs to be a concerted push, as it was during the civil rights movement, where you have people from all walks of life joining us in that march towards justice.
Right. And Nira, when we look at how HBCUs have suffered, I mean, we already know that some of the most brilliant and greatest minds have come out of historic Black colleges and universities in this country. But there's still something that seems to be missing. I mean, when I listen to Dr. Williams talking about, you know, just getting people connected to understand of the resources that are available, the opportunities that are available, the cultural advancement that can be made because you're a part of an HBCU. But there still seems to be something missing in this conversation to make sure to get people activated. What do you think that thing is?
I'm not sure, Farajii, to be honest. I don't know what's missing. I think we have to stop pushing college on everyone. Can I just say that? I don't think that college
say that
everybody.
Okay. You just said it. You just said it.
Mind you, I am a big advocate for going to college, but I do agree college is not for everyone. So again, I think if you, as an educator, I think we need to look at our youth while they're still youth. You know what I mean? Like if I look at my son, I can see what his strengths are. I can see what subjects he gravitates toward. And I don't think that we cater to that enough. We don't think about those things enough. I remember when I was going to college, I was told, go to be a nurse because there's always going to be a job in the nursing field. I would hate being a nurse. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I do not want to work in a hospital. That really, I mean, I am a straight A student. I failed 2 semesters at Morgan because I just wasn't invested in what I was learning. So that's another thing. We have to get kids, who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? They can think about those things in middle school and high school. So that when they do get to starting to think about college, they'll have a purpose. They'll know what they want to study when they get to college. So it's not so much wasted time. Or, I know so many people that have a degree that they never used because they don't even want to work in that field. They just got a degree because it sounded good. And now they're working in something totally different. So we really have to focus on their strengths, what they're great at, what their passions are, and then create a plan for college.
So what you're talking about there is something that I think, Iman, is a transformation around the culture of making those decisions to go to school, right? And look, first and foremost, let me just tell y'all, I love college. I went to college. I graduated.
He went to Towson, y'all. He didn't go to HBCU.
Hey yo.
Don't feel bad for Farajii. I didn't have an option at the time either.
I didn't go to an HBCU, but I worked at one.
We represent Eric.
I worked at Morgan State for a long time.
Yeah.
I got a Towson Tiger. Tiger.
But yes, Towson University, absolutely. But Iman, when we're talking about just the larger conversation about going to school and the culture, and like Nira said, you would think from a story of telling a young Black girl within the past 20 years, oh, go to school to be a nurse. Like this is the 1950s. You know what I mean? Where the choices were be a nurse or be a teacher. You know what I mean? Like this is so it sounds like we really need to change the culture of having of presenting those options for the next generation. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. And I agree that it doesn't have to be such a step-by-step type of thing. I think it's okay to go to a community college after you graduate high school to sit and really decide what you want to do. And it also cuts costs. You take your your general studies courses there, and then you move on to your major studies when you transfer, hopefully to HBCU. But it has to change. Figure out what the passion is of that student. For example, I wanted to be a forensic scientist in 11th grade, but hated math. How was that going to work out? It wasn't. So it took time. If I didn't play basketball, I honestly don't see at the time what my reason would be to go to school. To be honest, I was wound up having to be on academic probation for my second half going to CCBC after I stopped playing basketball. I wasn't in it. Like Nira said, I didn't have a passion for it anymore. It's like, why am I here? But it takes time. It didn't really click to me until about 2015, 4 years after I graduated high school, to really hone in on what I'm passionate about and what I'm here to do and what I want to do. But to be a forensic scientist, I wish I would. No. Statistics isn't even a good source for me.
Farajii, I was just thinking, I really do wish more high schools will be trade schools again. I think we need more trade schools. We need people to do HVAC. We need people that, engineering, fix cars. We need people, we need people to do hair. I mean, that's a very lucrative business doing hair.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I know, because that, my girl. I just think in general, some people like to work with their hands. I just think the trade schools are really, really important. And even if you decide to go to college, just having that trade and that certification can really even help propel you when you're in college, because you're not having to maybe work at McDonald's. Maybe you could have a little part-time job fixing some plumbing and make decent money for a little bit of hours. I mean, so there's just so much that we, I feel like we thought we were advanced, but I think we were a little bit more advanced back then. Like I learned sewing in school. We don't even learn how to do those basic skills anymore. I learned cooking. I want those things. I want to see those things be brought back into schools.
So, Nira, what do you tell your students? I mean, you worked with elementary age students. How do you have and then of course you worked with other ages, all the way up to seniors. But what do you tell students, at that, if they're fourth graders and fifth graders, how do you have that conversation about going to college?
Oh my gosh. So I get them really pumped up about college because we do like little mini college tours. We did virtual tours. But not only that, I went to college and they like that. So that's one thing. They're like, oh, Miss Muhammad, you went to college and you did this and you did that. So I could do it too. So they get invested because one, they see someone who looks like them. They, you build a connection. But I also talk to my students and I really like to get to know them and look at their strengths. So for instance, I had a student who loved blood. So for Black History Month, his report had to be on Dr. Charles Drew. And so he was so fascinated by this, like, all the Dr. Charles Drew did. And that was something he'd never known. So now he's like, wow, I could be a doctor. It took his love of blood to a new level. So now he's thinking about becoming a doctor. So I know for me as an educator, I really paid attention to my students' strengths and I try to act off of that. I don't like to give kids a blanket, there's not a blanket understanding of children. They're all different. So
absolutely. And I think that's the big part of it, Brother Eric, is that you got to give, especially Black children, because we have so many different talents and interests. you got to give us choices. I mean, there has to be some choices. Like, okay, you can go to a 4-year. I personally went to a 2-year. I went to community college, then I transferred to a 4-year institution. It took me 400 years to finish college, but guess what?
Right.
It happened,
Okay,
right? You know what I'm saying?
Good brother.
It happened, but you know, but you know, Brother Eric, when you're talking about those options, because of the diverse talents that Black children have, we have to be in the business of not just shuffling them to another institution. We have to be in the business of cultivating talent for our communities.
Right. And just don't feel bad, because I'm 63 and I'm still in school.
You're still in school, and
yeah,
you're killing it.
Hey,
You gonna get the job done.
but going back to Neera's original point, and I'll put a biblical reference to it, identify what the child is good at and strong at. And the Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go. Now, that's a parent's responsibility to understand the way they should go. And then when they get old, they'll not depart from it. Then we'll have success.
There it is. Folks, we're gonna take our final pause. When we come back, let's talk about, we're gonna introduce you to our brand new segment, Trends, Posts, and Doing the Most. I'm going to share with you just some of the trending topics and things that have been happening, get the take from the culture crew, and a whole lot more. So stay with us. We got a few moments left in tonight's show. So stay riding with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, it's time for our brand new segment, Trends, Posts, and Doing the Most. Yep, and it's just... Yeah, we had a little graphic for that. It's all good. Big shout out to my team, man. All right, Trends, Posts, and Doing the Most.
We fancy, huh? Okay.
All right, but check this out. this is our segment where we talk about trending topics, talk about what everybody is talking about, just to keep you up on some of the culture. And let me just share with you a couple of the big ones. All right, let me go to this one. Let's see. All right, here's what's trending yesterday, and it's still trending now. And I've actually seen some memes for this one, which is Rihanna is pregnant. Apparently, that's a big deal. Iman, I'm gonna go to you on this one. Rihanna is pregnant. Talk to us about, she's pregnant with ASAP Rocky's baby, and now all women want to wear a pink jacket open to show their belly
in the middle of the street. Listen, first of all, I just want to say, we all know she broke Drake and Chris Brown's heart with this drop here.
Okay.
So, I know that hurt. She's pregnant. I mean, it's the same thing what happened when Beyonce broke the news that she was pregnant. Everyone's in a frenzy, of course. Oh, the Beehive, Nira, the Beehive lost their mind. So I think Rihanna's
crazy. I went crazy when Beyonce got pregnant.
Yeah, so it's like I would say like a social media auntie. I'm about to have a niece. My sister Rihanna's having. When Ciara had her children, you couldn't tell me weren't related at the time. You couldn't have told me. So I get it. I get it.
But this is the big deal. I mean, Rihanna is, of course, she's a superstar entertainer. She was a singer. Now she is a business owner, from everything from Savage Fenty to other brands. And now she's now like forever connected to ASAP Rocky, who is a hip hop artist who, I mean, I listen to some of his music. He's not like the worst rapper, but he's not a very, very high profile rapper. So we get into a place like she's having his baby. Do you think that this relationship going to work out?
I hope so. First of all, I don't even care if Rihanna's having a baby. I was happy for ASAP Rocky because he is one fine man. I was like,
okay.
It's the skin and the teeth for me. I was like, ooh, ASAP Rocky. All I gotta say is I'm happy for her. But ladies, stop walking around with a daggone coat on with your belly out. It looks stupid. She looks stupid, but she can get away with that because she's Rihanna. It's so tacky. Don't walk around with your belly out in the middle of winter with a coat on. Don't get sick. Don't do stupid stuff trying to be like Rihanna. Your belly will get cold. It gets cold.
Well, she just did that. Apparently, I think she the photogs were out there, so she just gave them a little show.
Give them a little razzle dazzle.
Just a little something. Just something for them to think about. But I mean, my hope is, real talk, congratulations to Rihanna and ASAP Rocky. I mean, I really hope that the pregnancy goes really well, and most importantly, that they work it out where they, build a very sound household for this new child. And it's going to be crazy whether it's going to be a boy or girl. People want to be all over this baby.
Absolutely. It's social media's baby.
It's social media's baby.
It's gonna be the case. Every child's birthday, every birthday is gonna the baby's gonna start trending. Every holiday the baby will be trending. So it is social media's baby. That's
right.
why
I care so much though. Why do we even care? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that we care just because, I mean, why do people care about the lives of celebrities?
I don't know.
I mean, that's
I don't really
culture,
get that excited
right?
when they get pregnant, though. Like, I really don't care. Like, I mean, I got my own kids,
Right.
All right. So I'll say someone who doesn't have children, it's fun to watch. It's entertaining to see.
Okay, so that's why it's
fun
to
watch. Especially social media, seeing other people's children, especially when y'all posted about a soccer game recently.
Oh, my son.
Nigel scored like two
shots.
I was excited on Nigel's behalf.
Right.
I had my own children to be excited about. So, I mean, that could be one perspective, You have someone else's children to root for.
You have somebody excited. All right, let me go to the next story. This is a story that I think got everybody's attention. Brother Eric, I want to get your take on this too, sir. A couple of New York nurses were accused of making over $1.5 million by selling fake COVID-19 vaccine cards. These were two Long Island nurses, and they were selling these cards. Julie Duvono, who's the owner of Wild Child Pediatric Healthcare, and her employee, Marissa Urano. are accused of handing out vaccination cards and charging $220 for adults and $85 for children. And it looks like Miss Julie is a nurse practitioner, and that Marissa is a licensed practical nurse. And the two were able to enter into false information to New York's immunization database. And so they created the scam, Brother Eric, and to sell these vaccine cards. They've earned $1.5 million. And this is what I truly believe, dear brother, is the reason why good messaging, whether it's calling from the CDC or whoever, this kind of like all over the place situations about how to handle COVID-19. And we don't have enough time to get into it, but in a sense of vaccines and all, but it just opens up Pandora's box of people trying to take advantage of people's ignorance and people trying to take advantage of people while they're vulnerable and scared. What's your take on this story, Brother Eric?
Well, so they saw an opportunity. They were enterprising, and they took advantage of it. Is it criminal? Yes. Did they get caught? Yes. They're criminal because they got caught. And so the unfortunate thing is that there was that many people who wanted a fake vaccine card when we're talking about a public health issue. And I'm not going to get into the issue of anti-vaxxing or vaxxers or whatever, but the fact of the matter is it is a public health issue, and there's a greater segment of the population that we may not be aware of that are not willing to take these vaccines.
Not all heroes. I would say not all heroes. Go ahead, Nara.
Did you say they were charging $20 for adults?
No, $220 for adults. And
I was about to say, because they charge $100 here in Baltimore.
Oh my God!
Listen, not all heroes wear capes, honestly. And yes, they are criminals because they got caught and they were forging fake federal documentation.
Yeah.
I just want to say,
it's sad that they got to that point. It's sad that the people were pushed to that point that they had to feel like they had to get a fake vaccination card to keep their job. That's on the government. That's something they need to think about. Why were people felt that they needed to get a fake vaccination card? Because they didn't want something to put something in their body, and whether you agree with it or not, I don't care. Whatever you put in your body, that's your choice. But the thing about it is, the fact is you gave them no choice. They didn't want to put it in their body. You told them they were going to lose their job if they didn't. So they made a decision based on their own health and their finances. So the government needs to take a hardcore look at themselves real quick, because they're not the only nurses. This is happening all over the country. So many people, I know people with fake vaccination cards. I don't have one, y'all. I'm being good. I don't got one. But I'm just saying.
Well, and I think to your point, Nara, that is part of the reason why that, we can talk about the COVID misinformation campaign that is currently happening across the country. But more importantly, this speaks to not just a public health issue. This speaks to a human issue. Like, even during the stock market crash of the 1920s and 1930s, excuse me, and then even during at any point in time where fear is high, vulnerability is high, scam artists, con artists, those type of individuals start to rise to the top, right?
And we can talk about it's just like prohibition. It's like people sneaking by weed. It's only legal in a few states, so people still smoke it.
Right.
Let's not act like this is something new.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So look, that's all that we have. We got a lot of other stuff that happened. And so sorry, dear, we can't talk about Tom Brady. And I know the future of quarterbacks all over.
I want to talk about Mickey Mouse and Dang.
We can't talk about that right now. But I really appreciate each and every one of you for joining me. This is my Culture Crew team, folks. The crew that you will be seeing more often as we have these conversations. And I got a whole bunch of other folks that's going to be joining us throughout the week to be a part of the Culture Crew. But I want to give a big thank you to our big brother, Reverend Eric Lee, who you'll be seeing some more of. Reverend Eric Lee, thank you so much. To Iman Heath, and to the writer, the educator, the activist, and my wife, and the host of Queen Talks with Nira podcast, Nira Muhammad. Thank you all for being a part of the conversation today. We truly appreciate it. And Ben, thank you so much for being so good for the culture.
Love you all. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, folks, that's going to do us for us tonight. This is our first show of the culture here on the Black Star Network, and we could not do it without your support. So I highly encourage that you do all that you can. Download the app. Make sure that you give. As you hear Brother Roland talk about this all the time, we can't do these shows. We can't have these conversations without your support. Every dollar counts. And most importantly, get your children, your nieces, your nephews, the young people in your family to be a part of this movement that we have called Black Star Network. We need your support. So make sure you see it at the bottom of the screen here. Support Black Star Network via PayPal and other platforms. But most importantly, download the app. Tell your friends and family about these new these new crops of shows coming from Deborah Owens with Get Wealthy, the Black Table coming up this week with my big brother, Dr. Greg Carr, and so many more voices. You will not hear the type of voices and have the type of conversations like this on any other platform other than Black Star Network. And we are just so excited to be a part of this lineup. And as Brother Roland said, there are more shows coming a little bit down the road this year. So we just have to get this first batch out, but we can't do this without your support. So we want you to support us at every opportunity. Your dollars and cents makes a huge difference, and it will change how we have conversations with Black media. As always, I want to thank my team. I want to thank my wonderful producers. I want to thank my producer, Joel and Shannon. And I want to thank my culture crew. I want to thank my tech team, the folks at the control room, so many people that made this broadcast possible. And we all want to thank all of you for joining us on YouTube and Facebook and any other way that you've been watching the show. We look forward to having more great conversations. And I'm going to say this, as I said at the end of every radio show, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk for another exciting edition of The Culture only on the Black Star Network. Peace.